I want to take a minute to talk to you about the SI Club, because if this podcast resonates, you are going to love it. It is the place where you get to go deeper on money energetics, and you also get to pair that with real world investing strategy. So what you get inside of the club is you get access to the SI method, which is a non-linear frequency-based approach that allows you to learn how to invest and also bring in income in an effortless way. So increasing your income and expanding it through investing. You get a monthly call with me. You get a private community that's all spiritually based individuals building wealth. You get access to the SI Drop into Certainty. It's the new AI tool. And so you can ask, any time of day, you can ask that a question and sort of build your own way. And if you're on the annual membership, then you get access to my stock list, my full personal stock list. So this is definitely a way for you to go to the next level, and you can find the link at thespiritualinvestor.com, or you can find it here in the show notes. Okay, see you soon. Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. Love being here with you. I wanted to share something with you really quickly, and that is that if you could not think about your money, then you would have more money. You would have more money because you would not be in resistance about your money, because most of the thinking that you do about your money is resistance. When we get that feeling that comes up in our bodies, that emotional churning is what it kind of feels like. That's an indication of something that is, you can say unfamiliar, you can say carries with it fear. There's something unknown about it. When you have the ability to see that it really has nothing to do with money, it has to do with your reaction to some future forecast you have about having more money or not having more money, then you'll see that you actually don't have money problems. You actually have money. You have money at the level that you are vibrating at. So you have money at the frequency, the normal level where you would be calling in the exact amount of money that you are asking for from this vibrational level. Now, we know that everything is energy, because when you walk in the room, you can feel someone's energy. You can feel their energy if you're not so busy feeling your energy. If you're in this lacking confidence, afraid, all of that, the world goes kind of deaf. You're not able to really draw your answers from the world, because that's the reality, is your answers are within you. But when your illusionary self has taken over the show, you just don't have access to the answers. That's when you have to go out and you have to ask people for evidence. The people that I see do the best, I'll say, inside of any of the spiritual investor programs, whether, it's the club or mastermind or what, is the people who are willing to come in and go vertical. And what that means is they're willing to not know. When you're in a state of not knowing is when you actually get to know something. Now, how do you get to this state? And it's very akin to money neutrality. It comes from managing your dependencies, and as included in that is going through some type of disentanglement exercise. Meditation, and this is where, my opinion comes in, meditation on an ongoing basis creates space and freedom in your life, no doubt about that. But a managing dependency, a disentanglement exercise of sorts, where you're coming back within yourself. The one that I do is where I'm walking around and I have this hula hoop of light around me, and I just come back to, there's only me, there's only me, there's only me. And I just do that until I can feel a slight letting go. But then you're not looking for a direct result either. You're not looking for, okay, this is just going to clean the slate. When you feel that slight letting go, you know that something is shifted, and then you can just let the universe, however you want to say it, accommodate the rest. When you are managing your dependencies with money and you're seeing that that emotional charge you have has nothing to do with your goals with money, or even your ability to call in more money, has nothing to do with that. It has to do with your past with money. When you're able to manage that and you combine that with the action steps in the 3D world of driving your expansion of money towards diversification, then what you're doing is, instead of working for the world, you're actually working for you. You're working for you in terms of your own freedom. Because freedom is you not being dependent on the economy, doing something in a certain way, and you not being dependent on earned income either. Now, it's okay if you're dependent on those things now. That's why I say it's managing your dependency. So you start to work for you when you wake up in the morning and you're working for managing your dependencies. You're not working for you when you wake up in the morning and you're working solely for the to-do list that you have, the roles that you play, and the job that you have for earned income. What you're doing is you're fulfilling an order and an agreement that you agreed to before. Now, that's okay. Of course, some of those things we enjoy doing, but are we choosing them in relation to, when I do this in this moment, I'm not actually working for myself or my goals? If yes, then that's okay. Because the point is, there's no wrong or right. There's no truth other than everything changes. And so it comes down to, are you choosing? Which then circles back to managing your dependencies. Because when you are dependent on something or someone, it doesn't matter if it's in a relationship, it doesn't matter if it's money, it doesn't matter if it's you needing to check a box off, or else you're not going to feel right. Something is causing a dependency pretty much all the time within us. And we're allowing that to be our guidance system. That's why when we go on vacation or we go away, like, we break the structure in our life, it's like the wheel is going, it's like someone grabbed the wheel and stopped it. And when someone grabs the wheel and stops it, you can actually breathe for a moment. When you can breathe for a moment, things get revealed in you that are wanting to come out. Like, you can feel it. Your soul wants to come out and do all of this work in the world. But you have all of these logistical, responsible things that you've agreed to that you're swapping for that instead. So we live in an and world, though. So how can you do it all? Well, it comes down to the looking of, are you choosing it? And then it also comes down to doing things that are going beyond where you are now. And that means doing things with an emotional charge in you. I'm in the process of writing a book right now. And one of the things that I was just writing about yesterday was this concept of self-love and money. A lot of people see self-love as you go to the yoga studio or you go and get a massage or, a multitude of things. Is that self-love? Because self-love is something that is just really to your core gaining you freedom. Or is that self-soothing? One could argue either way, but I would say that if something gives you a temporary high, even though it is on an overall basis, you could say it's improving your life. Self-love is really you working for your freedom, because not only are you loving you, but you're loving us too, because you show up much better in the world when you're free. You show up much better when you're not out here needing something. That's why my mantra, which has been this for years, is show up needing nothing, receive all. Now, I don't always do that. In fact, when I get into those sticky areas where I do need someone to do something for me, or I do need it to look a certain way, that is when I know that I'm not really there. But sometimes I have to go through the muck of being there and messing things up in order for me to finally get that. It's like to finally get that drop in. We see people who are in a state of abundance, but not truly in a state of abundance, because when you're in a state of abundance, we feel that from you. You see a lot of people who are in a state of abundance, which is really just talk, you know, and it's also fleeting. That's one of the number one things that people said when they came into this mastermind is they said, okay, I'm getting this, but how do I be consistent with it? How do I actually bring this feeling that sometimes they feel light with money, and they can feel the money coming in, and they can feel inspired by it, but then they go back into a state of okay, well, are the bills paid? And this limited belief that if you can't make $100,000 a month unless you're willing to trade time and put all kinds of effort into it and all that. Like, people fall back into that. And I think that the contrast is valuable, though, because everything magnificent and beautiful in the world has also at the same time been illogical. And so, are we willing to see that the path itself is supposed to feel uncomfortable? The path itself is supposed to be, I won't say rocky, because when you go into contrast, it's only your emotions that switch it to suffering. It doesn't have to be rocky, but it has to be, to a certain degree, unfamiliar. And as you expand into your own one consciousness, that unfamiliar feeling won't feel so foreign and like it's something that you need to get outside of you. Stephen Bartlett talks about this, how he actually searches for that. He searches for that uncomfortable feeling. Otherwise, he's at a level now where he's like, it's not worth my time, because he knows that it's just a repeat. And we have to ask ourselves, why are we going around making it our goal to feel comfortable all the time? Well, it's likely that we just can't energetically take it, if you will. There are other areas of our life that string us out, so to speak. And so we're looking for comfort in spaces where we can find comfort. And one of those, unfortunately, is money. Money has a charge. Money has a lot of conditioning. Money has deep-seated fears. Money has spiritual ties to it. Are you even a good person if you want to come out here and make loads and loads of money? You hear people that create these businesses and they're like, yeah, I want to go help, millions and millions of people. Yeah, I'm okay making millions of dollars, but then all of a sudden you get further into it and it's like, well, no, I don't need that, or that, that's you feel this backtracking that is happening. And what that is that's a lack of certainty. Certainty is the energy that drives the universe. Certainty is you with your full power getting behind what you want to do. I can't figure out for the life of me why somebody would even choose what they want to do and not get behind it with certainty. Like, why are you giving energy to option B and option C? To me, that's like, it's just detracting from the thing that you really want, which is your, certainty. You actually are certain about what you want. If you say that you're not certain about what you want, I would say there's something going on with your listening. Your listening of yourself is clouded by your roles, the things I said at the beginning, your circumstances, the agreements that you've put in place that are no longer in alignment with you, but you haven't really addressed those. All of these things that we have, this like latent structure that we hold up, and we don't have a way of quantifying the energy that it takes. It's really actually a good thing when things come into our lives, and it's a little challenging for us, because what it does is, you always see this on the other side. There's something that someone goes, oh God, well, good thing that did happen. That's why one of the 5 aspects of the SI method is breaking the structure. And that is a way that you can, on an ongoing basis, accelerate your life without suffering. You can do it by being illogical and taking things off of the table that you may even feel like are serving you, or that you absolutely need to have in your life, or you're just going to die. Because it's the revealing of you after those things are taken off the table where the value is. It's not finding a sustainable way to keep those things on the table. Because anything you need on an ongoing basis is eventually going to be unsustainable anyways. So in some ways, you're kicking the can down the road. So with regards to your money, many of you are saying, I don't know enough about investing. I don't know what stocks to buy. I don't, you're in this state of waiting, which, I always say waiting energy is lack energy. So if you were to take whatever you have gotten from just listening to this episode, which that's always the goal, is that you can come here and spend your extremely valuable time and get something that you can take back into your day that will take you further. If you were to, let's say, take something from this in terms of managing your dependencies, looking at when you feel that you're in a state of abundance, is it at the deep level where I'm feeling that you're abundant, or is it you talking about it? And also that illogical is the path. Something that I would also offer you as something that you can take back in an action oriented way back into investing is you may be at a certain place in the spectrum with your investing. If you're not investing at all, then definitely, I don't even have to tell you this, but I'll say it, opening an account and then connecting your personal account, your checking account or whatever, and transferring money. That is the first step, because you can't buy stock unless you have money sitting there. And what a lot of people do is they don't have money there when they want to buy stock. So that would be the first thing. And that's something that you can do and then you can feel good about. Um, in terms of, sometimes people say, well, what stocks do I buy? Well, easy is to start with the ETF or index fund just based on the S&P 500. That's a no-brainer. If you're in a different country, there's also an ETF or an index fund that covers kind of the broad base of your particular stock market. And there are investment platforms in your country which will allow you to buy US stocks, so you can look for those as well. Um, if you are located here in the US and you just want to buy single stock, I would start with what brands are already familiar to you. And then I would start looking at what are their business models. Do they have multiple streams of income? Do they feel to you like they would be positioned in the future to do well? Then after that, I would look at stocks that people are going to need regardless, whether it's energy companies, healthcare, cybersecurity. There's all types of things that people are going to need. Then what I would do is I would take those and I would start to look at just a few of their competitors. Now, once you do that, you're going to probably come across some news articles based on them. Kind of a rule of thumb I have, and I share with students, is read 3 articles on each stock and then decide. And then don't feel rushed into buying a bunch of stocks, but don't wait either. In other words, if you've got 10 stocks there, go ahead and buy 2 of them and then say, okay, well, on Wednesday, I'm going to buy, X number more. And I'm going to, in other words, like, have a strategy in order to do it, and have that strategy be matched with ease. Have that strategy be matched with fun. There is nothing more fun for me than sitting in a high vibe coffee shop or restaurant or whatever. Sometimes I even do this when I'm hiking, and I'll just drop $10,000 on stocks because I already know what stocks that, I want to buy in my mind. And then I'll take a look at the market. I'll tap in, I'll get a feel for the market. Like, is it kind of scrambled and haywire? I don't read a whole lot into that because most of what we see on the news is clickbait and they're people keeping you in fear anyways, but I will get kind of a little bit of a read on it. Now, if I feel like I never feel like the market is going to drop or it's going to go suddenly we're going to have this huge market correction or anything like that. I don't go there because if I had gone there before, I wouldn't be a multimillionaire. And I don't know wealthy people who sit around and try and time the market. If Warren Buffett can't time the market, then I don't know why anyone thinks that they can. So having this, what if the market's going to drop? Is everything too expensive? Please know that people who don't do well in investing, those are the top 2 questions they've been asking themselves. Please bypass that and go, I am here to expand money. The market is not for a game for you to time. If you want to do that, you could go be a day trader. If you actually want to acquire assets, they're going to work on your behalf in behind the scenes while you're sleeping, and they're actually going to support you so that you have the option to not rely on earned income anymore. You must start layering in stocks and you must go beyond your thinking. So I started this podcast with if you didn't think about your money, you would have more money. That's what I wanted to share with you, right? Well, look at the ways that you're overthinking about stocks and investing and move forward with it rather than trying to figure things out. Now, you might feel like that's irresponsible, but we go back to everything beautiful and magnificent really does require a level of being illogical. So that illogical, I want you to see that is a momentary perception, because when I bought Micron at $50, that stock was in the toilet, and it was like it had all sell ratings on it. It was totally in the red, but I've always had a feeling about that stock. Well, that was several years ago. Micron is now trading above $1,000, and I've been buying it ever since, not thinking about it. Once I made that decision, this is a good stock, I've been buying it no matter where it is. Not one single time did I buy it at $700 and think I'm not going to buy it because I could have gotten more at 50. Why would I do that? Why would I even bring the past into something that I'm doing as a function of expanding? So when you start to look at how much are you not expanding because you're catering to the past, then you won't tolerate it as much anymore. You won't tolerate the stories that have continued to keep you on the sidelines. You won't tolerate the things that are continuing to make you feel that emotional charge. It's okay if you feel that emotional charge. Once you become okay with that, that's the moment that you can also go through that disentanglement exercise that I briefly mentioned. So hopefully this helps you to sort of get in action. The whole point of the spiritual investor is to teach you how to pull energy down and then go across what I call the bridge, and then take that into the 3D world, using the 3D world tools as your advantage, not having the 3D world tools use you, right? I don't want you managing your money and living on and investing based on just what you have left. Like, why have that life? Why accept that? What if you said, that's bullshit, I'm not doing that anymore? What if you said, no, I am going to get up every day and I'm going to buy back my freedom, which means that I am going to continue to call in more money that I can expand because this is what I want my life to look like. So that's exactly what I did, by the way, that's how I left corporate at 39 and was able to cover my full cost of living and be done with my long-term retirement. I did that at 39. Those are two pretty big boxes that are checked. However, it took me 8 years to do it. I could have done it sooner, now that I'm looking back, of course, but it was all perfect. It was all perfect, the timing of that, because then I bought a horse ranch. I relaxed. I gardened for a couple of years. I learned how to compete on horses, how to jump horses. I got connected to horses because I didn't even start riding horses until I was an adult. And then the spiritual investor was born. That's when this all happened, and I had the space for myself. I had the availability to really go, okay, well, this really worked for me. And the one thing that I see that people really, really want, it's not even money that they want, to be honest. It's what they want is they want the freedom that is given to them based on not needing money anymore. And when you don't need money anymore, that means that you've gotten to a certain level to it. So don't feel bad or guilty about getting yourself to the level where you don't need something anymore that is then going to free you up to be just floating and do whatever you want in the world, because we need you out there doing that. So whenever you come across this guilt of, you may need several $1,000,000 to do this, but look at your resistance in that, which will help create the scenario of you owning and looking at what you really want, because you cannot bring in the energy of certainty until you yourself are good with having what you want. And that's actually the problem. The universe will give you whatever you energetically put out there. You ask for it, and then you become the self-expression of that. You can have anything you want, but not first without you removing the illogical reasons that you can't have it, or the structure that you feel like you need to live into, or else you're not going to get what you want. You're not going to have the life that you want. So thank you for co-creating this with me. I've had some amazing interviews that I have done for this, and I'm going to share with you coming up. And we've got some really exciting stuff on this podcast coming up with, I'd say, kind of the back half of 2026 too, that I'm just so excited about. So, all right, so much love to you. I will see you on the next episode.